All right, what's going on, everybody? So, I'm going to do something a little different. I have just got the Sony RX100 Mark VII camera. It's the brand new compact camera from Sony. Just came out, I think they launched it August 16th, if I remember correctly. In any case, I just bought it. I'm going to be taking some videos, some photos, stuff like that, post it all in this video. It's kind of a review for it, but I'm not a camera expert. I'm definitely an amateur. I use it mostly for traveling and random pictures, taste tour videos if you've ever been to that YouTube, Tidwell Taste Tour. But that's mostly what I use this for. So I'm just going to show you some of the features, go through the menus, show you some of the different video modes and things like that. This is being shot in full HD, the 1080p mode. This is the 30 frames per second, 50 megabits per second. Obviously, it'll be downsampled for YouTube, but nonetheless, it's got a couple really cool new features. And I hope you enjoy the review slash hands-on experience. And if it helps you make a decision on this camera, then I assume that it was worth it. Right now, I actually have just bought the newest hand mount for this, or with a grip they call it for it. They're coming out with another one, but we'll go into that later. In any case, hope you enjoy. All right, this footage is being shot in my room downstairs. It's my electronics room and stuff like that. As you can see over here, a couple little cool figures. Geralt of Rivia, the Hunter from Bloodborne, and Batman. The zoom on this is much, much better. I think it's the same as its predecessor, the Mark VI, but much better than the 5 and prior. It's got a 24 to 70 millimeter zoom lens that equates to about an 8 times optical zoom. And it certainly in the bright day is much better. The one downside is the lens aperture is actually a bit smaller, meaning low light photography is a little bit worse. But overall, you can see the video in fairly low light situations is quite good. A couple other things here. And as I said, shooting this in 1080p at 30 frames per second. Going into a much darker room here. As you can see, it acclimates, the shutter acclimates pretty well to low light situations. Alright, so I'm actually now shooting this video with the Sony RX100 Mark IV. And we're just going to go through the menus real quick on the Mark VII. They're a little bit different and considerably longer than the old versions. So you got your standard stuff here, file format. You can choose between JPEG and RAW. JPEG quality, extra fine is the highest. You can choose your JPEG image size. There's small, medium, and large. Large obviously gives you the most best quality image. Aspect ratio, you can choose 3:2, 4:3, 16:9, all that kind of stuff. Panorama is obviously grayed out because I'm not in panorama mode. I'll show you the actual camera in just a second, but it's very similar to the other RX100s. Long exposure NR and high ISO NR, that's for long shutter speeds, slow shutter speeds rather, so that you can do high quality low light images. Let's see, color space, that's sRGB is kind of the standard. Auto mode, that's currently the mode I have selected on the dial up here. But superior auto and intelligent auto are the two selections again. Drive mode, you have single shooting, continuous, so on and so forth. Bracket settings, all that kind of stuff. You can actually save different modes now. Whoops. You can actually, whoopsie daisy. You can save different modes now in the recall right there. Focus mode, automatic autofocus. You can go through the menu there. Change the autofocus to automatic. You can change it to single or continuous. Automatic is just a dynamic version between the two. And that's why I have that selected. You can choose the focus area, which is wide is probably, generally speaking, the best one. Focus area limit. Autofocus illuminator will show the actual autofocus, the little boxes. Pre-autofocus means it autofocuses before you actually hold the shutter halfway down, the shutter button. Just all kinds of different autofocus options. You've got ISO settings, which in auto mode, or it's almost always set to auto. But you can go in there and select different ISO auto. You can choose the range limit, and you can choose the minimum SS. Typically, there's a high setting and a low setting. Standard works for most applications, but you can look on the Sony guide for a little more detail there. Flash modes. This stuff's all grayed out because it's in auto now, but you've got, your white balancing, DRO, auto HDR. Dynamic range optimizer is kind of a Sony proprietary thing. They don't let you in the two auto modes, intelligent auto or superior auto. They don't let you select auto HDR, which kind of sucks because the the dynamic range optimizer is not particularly good. It's okay, but if you like a nice heavy contrast in your image and a nice heavy dose of HDR, D-Range Optimizer does not do that. Creative style, you can select standard, vivid, so on and so forth. Picture effect, picture profile, kind of the same deal there. A couple effects, don't use any of those. Focus assisting type stuff. Face priority, you can actually, faces priority, you can actually put, I can't remember which, I think it was under face registration. You can, no. One of these, you can actually change it to a pet's face that you can follow, which is kind of cool. So video modes, you have your standard, 4K, HD, and AVC HD. XAVCS is their proprietary format, very good format as well. Your dual recording, this is a really cool feature here. You can dual record images. You can auto dual record images too. You can set the size there. It dual records quite large. The auto dual record is pretty awesome. It'll take still images during the filming, and you can select the frequency. So that's pretty neat. Autofocus, drive speed, tracking sensor, and slow shutter. Those are basically just things to help your autofocus and change the drive speed. Essentially, determines how quickly the camera switches focus from one thing to another. The tracking sensor is pretty similar, and the slow shutters for low light recordings. It allows the camera to automatically sense that there's low light and adjust the shutter speed accordingly. Audio recording, obviously, audio level display, wind noise reduction, steady shot active. That's what we're using right now. But the menus are, you really do need to look at the Sony guidebook. They do not provide it with the camera. You actually have to go online to look at it, but nonetheless, they're pretty useful. So here's what the camera actually looks like. It looks almost identical to all the other RX100 versions. Here's the top. Dials look pretty much the exact same. The back flips out just like on the other ones, like so. You can flip upward or downward. I think it's upward 180 degrees and downward like 45 or something of that nature. But the aesthetic of the camera is basically identical to the prior RX100 versions. There you can see the maximum aperture. Figured I would also show this real quick. The camera on the grip. This is the Sony, I can't remember the model number of the grip, but, and then I can show you some of the phase point detection stuff, hopefully. Yeah, you can see the little small boxes there. It can do if you, there's the autofocus. It's focusing now on my sound bar. If you do like pan out like that, there's a little small one focusing on the power outlet. And the lens, essentially, when it's outward, looks basically identical, just a tad longer. I'll also I'll also go ahead and just show you the zoom real quick, the actual lens zooming, and then so you can see it starts at 24mm zoom, and then it goes all the way to 200, which is about 8, just a little over 8 times optical zoom. You can see the lens. This is what it looks like when it's at the 2.8 at the wide angle lens, the wide angle setting. And then here is what it looks like as it's going to the telephoto. All right, so now that you saw, I'm shooting again with the RX100 Mark VII. Now that you saw some of the features and actually saw the physical part of the camera, I'm just going to talk about a couple of the differences. And the next videos I have I'm going to post are going to be the different shooting modes, just various things. I'm going to shoot in 4K, I'm going to shoot in 1080p at 60 frames a second and all that. So the biggest differences I can think of off the top of my head are specifically for videos, but there's a couple for pictures too. So for videos, you can shoot now in 4K, but using active steady shot, which is a drastic overhaul over the standard steady shot mode, especially if you're walking or moving around. Great for traveling. So if you're shooting in 4K at 30 frames, it's a very, very helpful thing to have additional stability, both optical stability and electronic stability this time around. It also has an amazing eye autofocus. I can see it right now with the screen flipped up that it's focusing directly on my, it would be my right eye, and it locks on there and will not let go. It's pretty amazing and does it very quickly. Like I said, the lens the zoom is great. 8 times optical zoom, like I said, 2.8 to 4.5 aperture. So it's a little bit smaller lens-wise, and the lens is essentially the pupil of a camera. So what it does is allows, the max aperture is what allows the most light in. So the higher the number, the less light that's allowed in. Meaning the 2.8 is considerably smaller than the 1.8 of the Mark V and previous. So the Mark V and previous are going to have a little bit better low light capabilities. It's got 357 point phase detection autofocus, which is it's a huge step up from. I was amazed at the difference between it and the Mark IV. Now, obviously, my time with this is much lower than on my Mark IV, but nonetheless, it is incredibly. The autofocus is amazing. What else? Overall, it's still the big thing for video. It now includes a mic in input, meaning you can use an external microphone. Sony is making a grip coming out later this fall that also includes the mic stand on it. So that will be amazing for vloggers and amateur videographers and things like that. What else? It's got the standard Bluetooth location sensing, or location. You can sync it with your phone. It'll detect the location. There's a cool thing you can do when you're shooting videos in 4K too. You can actually override the heat. It has an overheat sensor, and you can actually override it. It still will turn off when it gets to a critical level, but the 4K in the standard mode will automatically shut off. I believe it's at 5 minutes, but I'm not positive. You can now override that function. Yeah, so just more of the good, from my perspective, more of the same good stuff from Sony on this one. But I'm going to go ahead and check out the other videos. You can see that whether it's, I'll put it in the title, whether it's shooting in 1080p at 60 frames, 30 frames, 4K, whatever. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the little, not really review, just the kind of the, little hands-on experience here, and I'll show you some more videos soon.